super, super knowledgeable on just so many things that it was so cool. But to give a bit of background for anybody that may not be too familiar with us in the $1 Million Upside team. So it's not just me. I have a team of other people, KJ Mudd and Joseph Mudd. KJ's here right now. So yay. But super knowledgeable on just so many. I'm like, what the heck? Where is this coming from? We are multifamily investors. Currently, the team has a little over 100 units under our belt. And we just look to create this community, create a Facebook page so that anybody who's just starting to get into multifamily or interested in the field at all, they can go ahead and come into the group, ask any kind of questions. Feel free to reach out to us. We definitely want to just educate everybody, or at least really just share our experiences and what we know on multifamily to see if we can bring others up. So yeah, without further ado, I would love to introduce Mitch. He's amazing. Go ahead, Mitch.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on today. Greatly appreciate it. I give you just a little bit of an overview of kind of my experience, in real estate. I started out in construction as a construction worker. I was a realtor. Actually, I started as a realtor in January of 2007, right at the beginning of the market crash, which was very interesting, right? Because I get to work with, just regular single family resident buyers and sellers. Went through the whole short sale REO era. Then I actually started working with some real estate investors in Southern California who were, flipping probably like 3 to 5 houses a month. So I kind of learned, the whole single family resident flip game inside and out. I already had construction management experience, and I grew up in that, so I knew that side of it already. And then I was already doing REOs and short sales during that time as well. So I was able to add value and learn, from a group that started off, just doing auction properties, and then I showed them how to buy REOs and short sales and wholesale deals. I also learned how to run auction teams all over Southern California. So we were actually buying all over San Diego, Riverside County, LA, and Orange County. So we had multiple drivers, and we didn't have all these great apps that we have right now. That was probably about 2011, 2012. And then I had the opportunity, actually, they had landed a big contract with a hedge fund, which was Colony Capital. It was one of Blackstone's competitors. And so we started doing acquisitions, for rental portfolios all over San Diego, Riverside, and LA. And so we went from, flipping, 3 to 5 houses a month to 20 to 30 houses a month. And so it was an incredible learning experience. And then at one point when we were doing acquisitions for the hedge fund, we were buying 15 properties a day. So that was just on the MLS side, not including the auctions. So it was quite a task of, getting into the properties, inspections, coordinating all of that, coordinating all of the closings. And so then, at a certain point, it was just kind of time for me to move on. They were going in a different direction than I wanted to go into. So then I started learning, I had kind of learned how to raise capital, how to find deals, how to build relationships. So then I started flipping houses on my own in San Diego, Riverside area, and in South Orange County. So my flips started out, initially at like 300,000 and ended up being multi-million-dollar flips. So kind of seeing the entry level, mid-level, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 flips all the way into the $2.5 million range. And it's been an incredible journey, I can say. I've done over 1,000 transactions now. I've flipped over 500 houses on my own, and I've flipped over 500 apartment doors. There was a transition for me from, single family into multifamily. It was probably about 2015 or so, 16. I bought my first multifamily apartment building in Fresno, California. It was a 4-unit complex. It was an REO, and it was a complete disaster, so it was everybody wants to hear the, oh wow, the great stories. Well, these are part of the real stories, of like just going through challenges and learning about it. So what I had figured out though was I bought my first multifamily apartment complex. It was REO. I had investors and hard money lenders and stuff from Southern California, but initially I couldn't find anybody to go with me to a brand new market, which was considered like a sub market. So I had, fortunately I had a couple of private investors that actually did. So one of my private investors, who's still a partner of mine to this date, was the first partner that I went there with. I bought a 4-unit apartment building, and like I said, people were breaking into it every single day during the renovations. They were pooping in the bathtubs. They were shooting drugs. I mean, it was, complete chaos.
Oh my God.
So I got I did find a property management company. I interviewed several property management companies, and I found one that I liked. So I went ahead and hired them to do the property management side. But one of the reasons why I'd broken into multifamily was because I wanted to get out of the rat race of flipping houses consistently all the time. And there was a lot of tax advantages with moving into multifamily, as far as like depreciation, accelerated depreciation. There's cash flow, so you can work on the property while you're doing the renovations. So my progress went from buying the first 4-unit complex to the second one was 24 units. And then there was kind of a mindset shift for me at that point. I kind of wanted to move more into multifamily because I like the tax advantages, the strategy, and the cash flow. It allowed me to buy a 24-unit apartment building. The second one was actually a fire damage property, and I actually bought it sight unseen. But what I did is I sent 3 different contractors there. I found the deal actually online, and I called the agent every 3 days for 3 months straight.
Dang.
And so there was actually a lot of offers that were higher than mine, but I just continued to call and build rapport and ask about the property. In fact, the second property had a fire during escrow or when they were marketing it. So it was also an REO property. And I think I'm freezing. Does it keep freezing?
A little bit, but we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, good. So anyways, the second property, I bought it. It was in Fresno also. It was a 24-unit apartment building. It was completely vacant. There were, I think, eight fire damage units, 8 to 10, something like that were fire damaged. So I ended up buying it for like $712,000. We sold that this year for $3,180,000. And so, so you can definitely get the equity increase with multifamily. It's one of my favorite asset classes. I did something actually at that point too. I actually went to a Tony Robbins business mastery in Palm Beach, and it was a mindset shift for me at that point. And so then I, kind of went out and started collaborating. Initially, nobody wanted to invest in the deals that I was doing because it was something brand new. I didn't have a lot of experience in doing it. And so the way that I actually figured it out was I just went in and I watched like 3 YouTube videos, and then I just jumped in. That was my experience. So then after that, I kind of started, doing just research on syndication, and understanding, apartment syndications and partnerships, and, kind of figuring out that model. One of the things that I did was I figured out how to get housing authority to pay 50 to 100% above market rent rates. And so that was where I kind of really jumped in, because there's a huge housing demand throughout the United States, and inflation and all the different things that happen, year over year. The rents might drop a little bit here and there, but for the most part, they're always going to continue to go up over a period of time. And so especially like right now, we're seeing, inflation, interest rates, all these things that are changing. So, I went to the business mastery and I came back, and I went from 400 to 500 units in like 2.5 years. And it was just through, talking to people about what I was doing, showing people what I was doing, and just kind of going out and meeting people. I had, also some friends and relatives that initially were on the sidelines. And then, they started, taking interest in it. And so, so then it kind of just took off from there. And then, you learn a lot along the way too. I mean, it's not all rainbows and sunshines when you're going through it. But yeah, it's been an incredible journey as far as that goes. I think right now where we're at, like in the economy, and so I've sold some of them during COVID. I've sold. I have a complex right now that I'm finishing up right now. I bought, it was 57 units. I bought it for $2,150,000. We just got a valuation at 7.750.
Oh my gosh.
So, but it came through. It came with a lot of challenges too. Some of the properties that I buy, a lot of people probably would be afraid to buy. So I figured out how to buy, mismanaged deferred maintenance properties with rents that are 50 to 100% below either market rent or what I could get housing authority to pay. I've also found lots of other programs which have helped out greatly. So I work with like foster kid groups. I work with like aged out foster kid groups where when they turn 18, and the parents can't collect money anymore, they kick them out. And so I've built relationships with a lot of these groups that have state and local city contracts. So they're always, looking for housing. And that's worked out pretty well. And a lot of it's just getting out and talking to different groups, within the community. But like on some of those projects, usually like one of them, when I bought it, it was 57 unit apartment building. It had 2,000 city code corrections on it. I'm usually not the first buyer on the transaction. That was actually, I bought it off of LoopNet. But it had a lot of problems. So I had to go meet with the city attorney and the head of code enforcement. And I had to write out a plan of what I was going to do with the property because they had to approve the sale. The owner who owned it, it was 57 units. There was only 37 tenants and over half of them weren't paying. When I took over, 18 of them were drug dealers. There was homeless people. There was, vagrants and all kinds of stuff, happening throughout the property. And so I've kind of learned how to specialize in buying things that most people probably would not buy. I know how I figured out how do you get rid of drug dealers?
I don't know.
I figured it out. I figured it out through trial and error and that kind of stuff. And what happens is though, is like with a lot of these properties, like once once the property management is bad, or they're just not really watching it, people will just take over the complex and they'll do whatever they want. And so if you don't have a really good management team in place, it can happen very quickly. There's, multiple properties that I've bought like this where, and some of these are smaller too, like 12 unit apartment buildings. I bought a 12 unit apartment building that was in the neighborhood where my 24 unit building was that I bought that had fire damage. And so once I kind of set a marker in a neighborhood and I figured out the rents and, how to get people to want to pay, 20 to 100% more than what the neighbors complexes are renting for. Well, how do you do that? How do you get people to pay 50 to 100% more than what the neighbors are? I mean, you do renovations, you put in security gates, you put in, stadium lighting, you put in cameras, you put in, amenities, and you provide, a safe, better environment, right? So by doing that, everybody wants to live in a safe, clean,
Yeah.
complex at the end of the day. So, I've kind of figured out that model, and I've just replicated it, multiple times. I bought in 12, like in the same neighborhood where the fire damage complex was. I bought that one. Then I bought 16 units 2 doors down from that. Then there was another complex that came up that was right across the park, all within eyesight of the first building I started in. And so, a lot of it was just reaching out to realtors, property managers, and just continuing to cultivate, relationships. So as properties come up, they're calling you constantly, right?
Mhm.
So like in that same neighborhood, there was this park where the city, they had, it was just like a dirt field before. And so drug dealers had actually taken over that whole area. The city planted grass there, but there was no lights in the park.
Mm.
And so it was actually 2 streets. There was a street in front of our complex, then the park, and then there was a street behind it. Well, at nighttime, I mean, you definitely would not want to walk through that park because you couldn't see anything, through the park. So there was all kinds of, activity happening.
Yeah.
And then one of the city council members actually got some playground equipment donated to the park, and all the tenants from the neighborhood actually got together and put it all together and installed it, because the city didn't have the budget, to actually put all of that equipment in. They just actually got the funds, raised so that they could get all of the playground equipment.
Mhm.
So that was kind of like, seeing that and kind of seeing everybody getting involved. So I just kind of like went on my own mission to find other complexes in that neighborhood. And as I bought complexes, like a lot of the tenants, really like, I would go, I mean, people come out, they talk to me, I talk to, the tenants and the people that are there, um, and they greatly appreciate, like, what we're actually doing in the neighborhood. So next to that park, there was a 12 unit building that, what I had figured out too is like the drug dealers actually would move from the complex that I bought. Then they moved to the next one. Then I bought that complex, and then they would go move to another, complex in the neighborhood. So it was just like merry-go-round, right? It was like a merry-go-round. So then by the time I bought the next complex, they already knew, right, what the game plan was. So then they would just move somewhere else. So then this 12 unit apartment complex that was right next to the park came up, and it was on it hit LoopNet, and I'm communicating with brokers constantly, and I just told one of them, hey, if you ever get any properties in this area, just let me know. So one hit LoopNet, and I think it hit the market at like 650,000. And so I drove by it. He told me it was like 7 or 8 in the morning. He called me immediately. I drove by it and I told him, okay, let's get an offer in right now and see if we can get it in contract before this afternoon, right? Before everybody like kind of figures it out. And so we ended up getting it in contract. I want to say it was like 650, somewhere around there. And I started doing the research on it. And the more, we started talking to the agent and the owner, or not the owner, but the property manager. What I figured out was that the property manager had ran it into the ground, and the owner had actually bought it for 750. They put 750,000 into it, so they were into it for $1 million, and they were marketing it for 650 because there was a lot of pain that was going on. It was being completely mismanaged. Half the people weren't paying. There was, drug dealers had taken over the parking lot. They were using the parking lot as their urinal while they were selling drugs in the park during the day and during the nighttime. There was, just a lot of activity was happening. So, so, so part of it was one of my relatives, he'd been seeing like what I was doing. And I told him, hey, you want to buy this complex with me? It's like, okay, yeah. So we'd already bought in, a couple other ones that were in, like DC neighborhoods. And but we were able to turn them around, pretty quickly. And so this one came up. I put an offer in. We got it accepted that day. It was like 650. We went and did inspections on it. There was a lot of just variation of, deferred maintenance issues. We were able to buy it for like 512,000, which was almost half of what the seller paid for it. And then I started doing cash for keys, and just paying people to move out. The So ended up doing, a lot of cosmetic renovations, just putting in like gate systems, power gate systems, cameras, lighting is very important. Showing up with, renovation crews and contractors and all of that kind of stuff. That's the quickest way to get rid of a lot of problems is, day one, we show up with multiple contractors working on the project daily. We're not confrontational with anybody, and I'll talk to anybody too, when we're there, but we have multiple people like they're working on the project, 5-6 days a week. And so, we're going through, we're putting in power gate systems, we're putting in stadium lighting, painting the exteriors, changing the windows, whatever we're doing. We just have a big team of people there consistently. So it took about 4 to 6 weeks to get control of that complex. What we ended up doing was, because there was no lighting in that park, so what I ended up doing was putting in like 20,000 watts of LED lighting, like stadium lights, and we lit up the entire park. And within probably 4 weeks of doing that, there were no more drug dealers at nighttime. There were no more like issues in our parking lot. And it completely changed that whole entire neighborhood. And also, like I figured out who the local police department was in that area, and we got everybody, all the owners' phone numbers in the whole entire neighborhood, so that the police department knew exactly who everybody was and they could get easy, contact with everybody. So on that particular complex, we bought it for 512. We put in like just over 100 grand into it, released it, put a new management team in place, and sold it within 120 days for 1.2 million. And then took the funds from that and bought 5 more properties, and kind of just, rinse and repeat over and over and over throughout that, process. And that's kind of how, it went from, 4 to like 500 in like 2.5 years, was just buying, mismanaged, deferred maintenance buildings, with rents that I could get, up by renovations. Some of the things that I learned too along the way were, I would actually go and meet the housing authority inspectors at the property and get to know who they were. So I would ask them, they're like, oh, who are you? Oh, I'm the owner of the property. They're like, what? The owners never come. Never, we've never met an owner of a property, the inspectors that I met. And so by kind of building out those relationships with housing authority, I got to understand how a lot of the inner rules worked, right? And so that's kind of how I figured out, like, I figured out how their payment structure works. I figured out how they would pay above market rate, because they have huge lists all over the entire country for housing. And so, so just kind of going through, trial and error, but actually meeting the people who are actually working there. I got to know, the people all the way up to supervisor and management. And, it's everything that we do is a relationship business. In real estate. So, constantly building relationships with brokers, agents, property managers, contractors, vendors, neighboring owners, and so now kind of like just fast forwarding a little bit, like now we're we went through this incredible COVID and, government telling people not to pay their rent and
Mhm.
all these things that, we've gone through as multifamily owners throughout COVID. I've learned, a lot of things, like during COVID, like, during the first like 3 months of COVID, we actually bought all of the tenants food. So we gave them like $25 to $50 food vouchers, because there was a lot of people, a lot of our tenants were, C class tenants, and even some of the B class tenants as well, where they were working at, restaurants, retail, and they just were either laid off or they weren't working, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we went through challenges with people not paying during COVID. But I think that made a huge difference with a lot of, with the vast majority of all the tenants, was that, we were there to try to help them through, especially the first 3 months of COVID were pretty rough for a lot of people. They were in lockdown and, only essential workers were allowed to leave. But yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot of different things, as far as like being an owner, working with property managers. I know your property manager is probably one of the most important people on your team.
Mhm.
I've walked so many units and I've seen so many variations of problems and issues, and kind of learned that the property manager is probably the number one. They're either going to help you be successful or they're going to cause you a lot of pain, you
Mhm.
know. So, but yeah, maybe if I'm not sure if you have questions or anything that we can elaborate on.
It's just a wall of experience and education. That was amazing. Oh my gosh. So one question that so I have a ton that I didn't get a chance to write down, but what is REO? I know that you were saying that that's the first things that you got into.
REO is real estate owned, so those are bank foreclosures.
Mm.
Um, so like, when I started out in real estate, I was working in single family real estate owned property. So short sales, which were like, somebody was upside down, they can no longer afford to make their mortgage payment. So we would try to go and negotiate with the bank to accept less than what they owed.
Mhm.
And now, fast forward, we're there right now, like with single family and multifamily. We're starting to see the default rates significantly increase. Just to give you an idea, on the single family side, I have a friend who owns a data company,
Mm.
and back in February we pulled all the pre-foreclosures for single family in the United States, and it was like 101,000. And just 12 states that we pulled right now, there's 100,000.
Whoa.
And so the pre-foreclosures in the past 90 days have skyrocketed.
Mm.
I saw something on the single family side. Uh, Notice the defaults have increased since last year, like 20, almost 25%
Wow.
is where they're at right now. And then like we're also like I just pulled all the multifamily notice the defaults for the whole country last week,
Mhm.
and there's 4,800 apartment buildings that are in pre-foreclosure right now with auction dates looming. And
Mhm.
so one of the things that we're actually going to do is I have a team. Let me talk about my team too. I have an amazing team that I've built. This is a virtual team that I put together from the Philippines. And so we're actually tracking all of the pre-foreclosures for multifamily right now. We started doing that about a week and a half or maybe 2 weeks ago, where we pulled all of the pre-foreclosures throughout the country. Because I've had people reach out through some of the real estate groups that I'm in,
Mm.
and they want to do like partnerships. And so I thought, well, let me see if we could pull all of the pre-foreclosures for one state. And, there wasn't a lot in like one specific state.
Mhm.
So we decided to go ahead and pull all the pre-foreclosures for the whole country. And then there are specific states now that I've pulled all of the owners that own the multifamily free and clear.
Mhm.
And so that's one of the databases actually that we're going to start calling, following up, texting, as we kind of, roll through this interesting economy that we're all in.
Yep.
Um,
think we maybe lost you, but wow, that's really interesting. We actually had a question from Max. He said, or he asked, could you shed some light on some of the horror stories going into Class C and D assets?
Yeah, I mean the biggest like horror stories would probably be so in that 12 unit apartment building, and we had a shooting where they were playing dice, and somebody had a gun, and that was an accidental thing, but they had a gun, so that was kind of like that was a little scary, and they shot themselves in the foot. And so I had to go meet CSI out there. And of course, nobody said exactly what had happened. I heard it later on from one of the other tenants. But like there was a tenant in that specific complex, and it was a lady, and she was a drug dealer, and she was probably 55 years old, something like that. And she controlled a lot of the drug dealers in that area. And so one of the horror stories is that we had a in that like 8-week period when we were renovating that, we had somebody shoot themselves in the foot. There was probably 2 or 3 other shootings like that happened there. Once we got the cameras and the lighting and that stuff down, then a lot of that just disappeared overnight. But dealing with that particular tenant, we tried to do cash for keys. They were already in eviction when we bought the property. So, we tried to do cash for keys with them. We eventually did cash for keys with them. And then, after we sold the property about a year afterwards, there's attorneys throughout the United States that will just send out these random postcards to people, to all the tenants, and then they'll just file a lawsuit. And what they're looking for is it can be anything, so and the reason why I know that they kind of just send out blanket postcards was because I talked to other people, other property managers in the area, and other attorneys that we use, real estate attorneys. And I got 2 lawsuits in 1 week. So I got one at that complex, and I got one at another complex. And what they did was they pretty much they go into the apartment complex, and they'll find everything that's wrong. So if the person doesn't clean up very well, and we have pest control at all of our complexes, but with that particular lady that was a drug dealer, she wouldn't allow anybody in there. I think she allowed us in one time because she said that she had rodents, and we had just bought the complex. And so, then we had a shooting, then we did cash for keys with her. And then a year later, we got a lawsuit. And so the lawsuit took 2 years to settle. And what happens is that there's attorneys that pretty much just send out these postcards. And what they do is they just pretty much want to get your insurance contact information, because your insurance never wants to go to like a jury trial. So they'll go back and forth for 2 years, and then they'll end up settling with them, and they'll pay them a settlement. And I had it happen 2 properties, same week, same exact attorney. And we had to end up settling, both of those. We turned it over to the insurance, and they took care of it. But yeah, that was probably one of the tougher ones. Because we had insurance, though, we didn't have to come out of pocket with anything. The insurance hired an attorney, so they dealt with, all of the back and forth and the deposition and the settlement side. And in fact, I have a litigation currently with that exact same attorney on another apartment building.
Oh my
And it
God.
happened a year and a half after we sold it. But it's the same exact thing. And what they do is they sue you, and they sue the previous owner. So it's almost like, I don't know if it's tied to a transfer date. Because what I noticed is it's usually when I'm buying it, because I'm buying a deferred maintenance property, they probably have already gone in before we bought it, or shortly after we bought it, within a week or two. They've sent out their postcards to the tenants, and I'm almost thinking they're targeting it that way, this specific attorney, because like it happened usually right after we purchased it. So there was like a sale date. They probably sent out the postcard, called the tenant, went in there, figured out, oh, okay, there was, maybe we bought it and, there was some roaches or it was dirty or we haven't been able to do the renovations because we just closed on it. So what they do is they sue you and the previous owner. And that's what takes so long, is because you got to get all these insurance companies, multiple insurance companies and owners involved in order to get to like a settlement. And in one of the ones that I'm in right now, actually, we sold the property like 2 years ago. And I think, we got the lawsuit a year ago. So it was like a year after we sold it. And I think it's supposed to go to trial next year sometime, but they'll settle it before that point. But they're saying that the tenant's going to, the two previous ones that I was involved in with that, the tenants got like 25 grand, 30 grand, something like that. They're saying that this particular tenant is going to get like 100 and something thousand. And the hard part to it is that, we do quarterly inspections on all the units. So, we constantly have, we actually had set this up with our property manager where the property manager will have somebody go in and do inspections, take photos. They'll check, the faucets, the P-traps. They'll change out the HVAC filter. They'll check the carbon monoxide smoke detectors. If some are missing, they'll install them. If there's any tenant damages, they'll take note of that. But what happens is that, you can't control how people decide to live. And when they move in, they're signing their lease, and there's the inspection page, right? And so if there's any damages, they're supposed to come in there and write it. Well, they're blank, right? Because it's got new flooring, it's got new painting, everything is, on and working. And then, as they continue to live there, if they don't report the damages or something like that, it doesn't matter whether it was their fault or your fault. When it gets to the insurance side, they're more than likely, it's almost like an auto accident, right? Like when there's auto accidents, they always try to figure a percentage of liability for each party that's involved in the accident. So when you're an apartment owner, that's exactly what your insurance company does too. Plus, they don't want to go to a jury trial, So there's just a lot of back and forth on that. But like on this current lawsuit that I'm in with a tenant, they've already figured out that this is like the third time this tenant has done this. But at the same time, it's like, so they're almost like a serial sewer, I guess, something like that. I don't know what you want to call it, but so they're tracking it, but they'll settle, sometime before the trial date. We looked up this particular attorney, and this is all they do. This is their job. They send out postcards to all the different tenants throughout, this particular city and area. And then they go in, they photograph it, and then they file lawsuits. So they've filed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lawsuits. They've only been to jury trial one time.
Whoa.
Which means that they figured it out, right? They figured out that the insurance companies are going to settle at a certain point, no matter whose fault it was, whether it was the owner or the tenant, So that's probably one of the one of the things that that you could go through. But in the property management side, I definitely would recommend, if you own apartment buildings, to make sure that you have someone on the property management team or on site inspect the units every 90 days, because then that way they can try to find preventative issues, because some tenants won't call in and report damages or repairs or things like that. Plus you want to make sure that your property manager, when the maintenance people are going out, we always make sure that they take before and after photos, so that way we could see what was the cause of the issue. Is this something that needs to be billed back to the tenant, or was it just like something that broke? Was it because like ACs, like you'll have an AC go out, or something happened, but a lot of the times, like, in order to make sure you're controlling your expenses, you gotta have, you gotta have really good communication with your property management company. And you want to make sure that they're aware that you want before and after photos of damages that are being repaired. Um, and I kind of had to learn that the hard way in the beginning, where the property manager, um, the way I have it structured now is we have our own teams. So I went out and found my own renovation people, and then I plugged them directly into the property managers. So now they're using the people that we picked. Because in the beginning, when we were using their people, um, they weren't really like scrutinizing the invoices, how much was being charged, but like over a period of time, like we built this relationship with them where they actually have changed a lot of their systems and processes, not only for us but for their other clients, right? um and so, for us, like, I'm not a slumlord. So, like, if something's wrong, I'm going to fix it, and then we can figure out, what happened and who's responsible for paying it. Is it us or is it the tenant? Um, but, there's a lot of owners, because I hear it from the property managers too. Like, there's owners out there that just don't want to fix stuff. And so the tenant, will just continue to live with whatever problem it is. It could be a leaky pipe, could be the dishwasher's leaking, could be a variation of things that just aren't getting fixed because the owner doesn't want to pay for it, or they can't get the owner to respond. So there's a communication gap there between the owner and the property manager, right? A lot of it right now too, like, just kind of fast forwarding right now on multifamily to where we're at right now. I haven't been buying multifamily since like 2019, but now I pulled all of I've been selling apartments because, we repositioned them and sold some, but now we're actually going to be moving into acquisition mode right now because the notice of defaults. There's a lot of owners, absentee owners that are older, 70, 80-year-old owners that, probably still would love to have the cash flow, but not take that tax hit.
Yeah.
So we're going to be, contacting apartment owners for seller finance. And I bought a 40-unit apartment building with a seller on seller finance before. I've bought in, smaller complexes. We've bought in mid-sized complexes. I think because of where we're at right now with interest rates too, I think that this is like a perfect opportunity to start moving into acquisition mode, for distressed assets and free and clear properties. There's probably, anybody who bought in 2020, 21, 22, if they didn't get a long enough loan, because commercial mortgages are much different unless you're doing, $5 million plus loans where you can get, agency debt on it, from Fannie or Freddie, and, get longer terms. Most of them are 3-year, 5, 7, and 10. So if there was somebody that had a 3-year loan, where maybe they were buying it and trying to get repositioned, and they had, 4% interest rate or 5% interest rate, and now they're trying to refinance, and go into a 7. That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where we're at, or even higher. And even like talking to lenders right now, a lot of them are, there's also a lot of like people who have hard money loans and private money loans, and if their hard money lender was leveraged with a Wall Street company, all those loans are, they're not doing extensions. They're starting to call those loans right now. And so that's why I think there's like an incredible opportunity, to kind of go into like an acquisition mode, at least for now through probably 2025. I think there's going to be like incredible opportunities coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with these, are you still doing syndications? Because I'm assuming you're going to try to go at least 40 up, right?
Yeah, so now I've had a couple of people in my real estate groups that have reached out and and have showed interest, so we're actually looking right now at like Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, North Carolina, South Carolina. And then so we'll start probably buying in those areas. But realistically, like I probably I think my position now is I will find leads and properties that we can acquire, either on creative finance or seller finance,
Mhm.
or even potentially, if it's bank financing, if we can get the right property. And then I'm going to find partnerships around the country who are already operating in those markets, and just do like joint venture partnerships, with people, because like I don't really want to be there. I haven't been to most of the states where I'm doing business at right now. And so, and if I've been there, it's only been one time. But I would rather find, great partnerships with people who are already there operating. They have, their contacts and their kind of system in place, for operating the complexes. And then I have a lot of experience. So I can bring expertise, as far as you know, my experience with dealing with property management and repositioning, and even the renovation side. And we've sold a lot of properties too. So we've gone through the full cycle, of acquisitions, renovations, releasing, putting management teams in place, and then actually preparing the properties, for resale or refinance at the same time. So it just depends on what the strategy is for it. But I think that, that's kind of really where I see myself moving forward in multifamily, is to just find great strategic partnerships that are out there that want to do deals together. And, you know, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So in those types of situations, I haven't heard many people do joint ventures. It's usually syndications or funds right now. Like it's at least what I'm seeing in a JV.
Yeah, well,
Oh, sorry. Go
I
on.
would, yeah, I'm thinking more like syndications too, also. So like, I've already done syndications before, so I understand, how that works.
Mm.
And that's kind of more what I'm thinking about, is more like syndications, because I don't really want to buy under 40 units unless it's an incredible deal. And we have somebody like in that market, where, we can reposition it, and maybe we'll just, sell it, after 1 to 2 years, or something like that. But no, it would be more of a syndication, somebody who's already like established, like they're doing the operation side, they're dealing with, the investors and that whole side of it. And I'm just, part of the equity piece,
Yeah.
on the GP side.
Damn, that's so cool. Jaden earlier had a question where he was asking, how long did it generally take to do your turnarounds?
It depends on the size of the complex and what kind of class of property you're dealing with. When you're dealing with D-class properties, you're definitely going to have more issues to deal with, just as far as your clientele and the locations of the property. But smaller complexes that I've done, like the 12 unit ones, I mean, those were like 90 days. 120 actually, I think, is what it took, right around 120 days to buy, renovate, release, and then prepare for sale, and then actually sell it. So on average, though, I would say the vast majority of properties, to get everything repositioned, is probably somewhere in the 12 to 24 month time frame, realistically. Bigger complexes will take a little bit longer, because you don't want to vacate the entire complex at one time. You want to probably do, if you're doing 40 units, like if you do 5 to 10 unit renovations at a time, you're not going to disrupt the cash flow, by doing that. And it depends on the state laws too, so like, the ones that I've done were in California, and it was before all of these rent control and regulations came out. So now, I'm learning about so many of these other states and the different laws and regulations that they have that are much more landlord friendly. And you actually, have the ability to reposition a property and make the property and the neighborhood better, for that matter. You know, as far as I probably will not be doing it in California unless somebody has, like an incredible team for, managing it. And if we did it, it would probably only be like C plus or B properties. I wouldn't do D in California anymore. It's too difficult. Unless it was 100% vacant. So if we bought it and it was 100% vacant, like an REO or something like that, then maybe I would look at it. But if we were in other states, I mean, I've looked at several other states, and I don't really think there's a limitation to where I could do, where I would go. I think the cold states are a little more challenging because you got winter months, where you only have a limited amount of months if you're dealing with roofing issues and boiler systems. I've already dealt with boiler system on one of my properties, and you can run into all kinds of challenges, with boiler systems. So,
Man, so when you're talking about the whole lawsuits and such, I know that you're saying that you guys generally don't come out of pocket and it's the insurance that ends up settling. Does that raise your rates at all though?
So one of the things that I definitely do every time is every property needs to be in an individual LLC. Especially bigger complexes. And if you're doing syndication, the portfolio that I have with my family, we had a couple of litigations with those ones. And I don't know if it was just because of that. There's a lot of things changing with insurance right now. So I don't know if it was caused specifically by that or if it was just California, but like during COVID, we saw insurance rates double almost every single year during COVID, year over year. There was a lot of things that they're attacking right now too. They're looking at buildings like pre 1970s that have Zinsco electrical panels.
Yeah.
And so like we just sold a complex recently where we were paying, it was a smaller complex. It was like 8 units. Mm-hmm. But to give you an idea, two things. One, it was 8-unit complex. We bought it for $475,000 in 2017. We sold it for 1.3 million, something like that. But what happened was our insurance was $6,000 a year, and the new owner, because there was these Zinsco electrical panels, they were getting quoted by our same broker at $16,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So part of the negotiations during escrow was we had to replace these electrical sub panels in order for them, to be able to get their loan done, because it was throwing their cash flow way off, for their expenses if the insurance was almost triple.
Yeah.
And so, but during COVID, like I noticed that happen in multiple complexes where we saw, one of them was like Berkshire. Berkshire was actually going out, and they were the cheapest out there doing insurance policies. It was Mercury and Berkshire, and so Mercury was actually pretty good. We had some great policies with Mercury, and they were the best priced and the best coverage. And then Berkshire came in, and they were kind of undercutting them. And so, we started getting policies, and then we closed, and then 30 days later, they would go inspect the property. And then they would come back with all of these repairs that they wanted done. It could have been like, oh, you need to have the parking lot resurfaced within 30 days, or you need to change out these electrical panels, and so you're talking like major renovations, that we hadn't initially planned to do right then. And so then we ended up having to switch insurance companies, to find another carrier. So like during 2020, 21, this was California too. We watched the insurance rates double during COVID, and then 21 to 22 they went up again, and then 23 they went up again. Some of them actually, I had a complex that actually dropped, in 23, which was surprising, but we didn't have any claims, for the 6 years that we owned it. We had zero claims, no issues, and it was, I think, Travelers Insurance, and they were actually a really good carrier.
Mhm.
But yeah, those are some of the things that you'll go through. During COVID too, we went through 7 fires during COVID
Mhm.
at apartment complexes, from a variation of like cooktop fires, where somebody just left like a pizza box on top of the stove, to one of them, I had 4 fires during COVID at one complex, 2 in 1 week, and so in 2 of the fires actually, were people that we tried to do cash for keys for. We tried to talk with them, we tried to get them on payment plans and do all these things, and it just didn't work out. And so the night before the eviction, they magically caught on fire, and the fire department couldn't determine exactly what the causes were, so it wasn't determined as arson. But that made it really difficult, because like we had CIG insurance, and 2 different insurance adjusters. One of them was great, the other one was terrible, and so we ended up battling with one of them.
Mhm.
But once the policy expired, we could no longer get insurance with a regular insurance carrier, so we had to go with a state-funded program, which was a California Fair Plan.
Mm.
And so initially on the complex, the policy was probably 50% of what it should have been,
Mhm.
but it's all we could get, and we couldn't get loss of rent insurance or anything like that. And so, but they did actually, they were a good carrier, because we ended up having fire loss with them. And they actually they paid out really quick. It was, the process was actually much better, because I had heard some stories of how long it would take to settle with them, but they actually settled faster than CIG insurance did, and dealing with them was pretty easy.
Mhm.
And so so those are kind of some of the things that that you can go through, as fires and stuff like that. Now with the fires though, like I mean, it just increased our renovations, to the property, so I mean, we were able to completely renovate a building that now has, new plumbing, new electrical, new roofing. We didn't have new roofing before the second fire or the third fire, so we got new roofing. It was a little challenging, because like within the first like 120 days of owning that complex, we had already renovated like the AC units, and we did windows and painting and kitchens and baths. And then all of a sudden we had 2 fires and burnt, both of the renovated units, and so we had to pretty much redo them again. But when you go through that too, I mean, to give you an idea, I brought a partner in on that deal who was one of my hard money lenders, and I opted to not syndicate it. And so he had been a great partner, and we ended up the first year, I think it was like 600,000 down to buy it. The first year we both got $430,000 tax write-off,
All
in
right.
year 1. Year 2 was over 300 each. Year 3 was over 250, something like that. And so we've gotten massive tax, write-offs on that, which help, so if you have other revenue, coming in, whether it's, I'm not W-2, I'm self-employed, but, like he's a hard money lender. So like he can go out and lend money, and bring in all of this income, and then he can offset all of his taxes by, having ownership in a building, as opposed to just being just a private money lender, and so so there's a lot of benefits, even when you're going through challenges and problems and stuff like that. Over a period of time, you just got to work through and just push through, the problems and the issues, and and that kind of stuff. And apartments are, it's more of a long game. It's you can turn them sometimes pretty quick, but I mean, I would generally plan for 24 months of repositioning. No, especially if you're dealing with 40 units, I would definitely say you're going to be there, kind of working through it for 24 months while you're kind of repositioning it. And but usually, like, if you look at it, we bought it for 2.1 million. I mean, the valuation just came in at 7.750. And if we were actually in escrow selling it a year and a half ago for, I think, 6 million, and we had a fire 2 weeks before the close of escrow. And so we had to go through, another fire, but now it's like the insurance paid for it. And now the valuation is another, $1.7 million higher. So even now, like, if we tried to sell it or something like that, we could do that. But let's just say that we have to roll through the next 24 months. The reality of it is we're still going to continue to do rent increases. When we bought it, the rents were $400 a door. Now we're getting between 1,000 and 1,150 a door. So rents have over doubled. And if we had to own it for 2 or 3 more years or 4 more years, I mean, the rents are just going to continue to go up, and it'll probably be worth, 10 million over that time. And we'll get tax advantages, cash flow, and appreciation, so.
Man, I can't wait till we partner on something together. That'll be great.
Yeah, so it's like, the good thing is, though, it's like, that's why I said, like, I don't need to be like the operator in that market or whatever. I can look at it, and I can tell you, like, where we're gonna end up on it. I mean, we have, like, I have CoStar access, we have CREXC, we have all these databases, for all of this information, to be able to, like, figure out, what to do with that asset and how to do it. So. But yeah, it's fun. It keeps you busy.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I am not joking though. I do want to work with you. And, like, I don't know if you can see the chat, but I mean, dude, you're a beast. Like, you are so filled with knowledge and experience. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, let me see the chat right there.
Yep. Yeah, Jaden said, "Dude, Mitch, you're a beast."
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Does it? Oh yeah, there it goes. Okay, it popped up. All right. But yeah, so I mean, part of it is too, like, I'm not, I don't have, like, I'm willing to jump in and try anything. And then also, like, sometimes too, like, I could tell you one of the challenges too is, like, if you have, whether it's JV partnerships or syndication, that kind of stuff, I mean, keeping everybody informed on what's going on, even if it's, not going the exact way, you originally planned, is definitely critical. But, like, I just anticipate things a lot more because I just, like, accelerate, when I start doing something, I don't like right now, like, when we're going to start doing acquisitions again, like, yeah, I'm going to buy 1 complex next year. We'll probably buy 1 and then 2 within the first, we'll probably do a couple within the first quarter, because I think the opportunity is huge. And then once we kind of get, like, the right operators, in the right markets, then it's like, I like to turn the volume up, and try to figure out, well, how many can we do? I mean, once we have a system down in a market, we have a good team there, then the sky's the limit, really, for the type of deals and the amount. I just really want to do bigger deals at this point.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that totally makes sense. My team right now, we are definitely looking at least, I mean, we like to say, okay, 40 unit minimum, but we're like, okay, let's try to bump that up to, like, probably 80 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely get that.
Oh, yeah, man. I think so. I mean, like I said, if you're in that 40 to probably 150 mark, you're probably, like, in a good space, right? I don't think the hedge funds are buying right now, are they? I don't think so. Most of them probably aren't. Yeah. So there's a it's kind of like a quiet period, right? Where we're going through all of this turbulence, but and because of the interest rate changes and all of the issues, that are happening in the world right now, um, chaos brings opportunity, and so that's the reason why I was like, let's pull all the notice of defaults, for the entire country. Like, let's figure out how many multifamily defaults are there. It was like 4,800 and change. And so we'll start pulling those every week. And then also there's like a lot of absentee owners, and those are perfect opportunities, right? Because there's a lot of owners that are, approaching that, 65 plus, that own complexes, bigger ones too. Where maybe they don't have heirs, to leave it to, or their kids aren't, you know,
Interesting.
interested in dealing with it, so it's a perfect opportunity because they don't want to sell and then end up with a huge tax bill either, right? So if they do it on an installment plan, it's perfect because they're going to get payments every month, and they don't have to go back out and buy something and manage and start over again, right? Like, that's not something they want to deal with. And then there's also just a lot of properties that are going to be in trouble. There's a lot of people that maybe they went out and did a syndication and they, had a projection,
Mhm.
and now they're trying to figure out like how to work out, either with their lender or, with their investors or something like that. I think there's going to be, a lot of those opportunities as well. So
Yeah,
remember, with chaos comes opportunity. So
I
with the
like
amount of
that.
chaos going yeah, with chaos comes opportunity, and one of the quotes that I love is the road to success is always under construction.
I like those. Those are so
Right.
good. You write them down.
Yeah. I kind of live by those. I'm anticipating it, right? Like, there's going to be it's going to be chaos, like right now, it was quiet, right? We had a fire at one, luckily it was only one apartment unit, and we got it all fixed and everything like that. And so now it's quiet. And I'm like, okay, the holidays are coming, something's probably going to happen. We're going to have like a fire, or, hopefully not, but I just anticipate things a lot more now, that something's going to happen, and whether it's the insurance is going to go up, or we're going to have like an issue with a fire or whatever. But yeah, I'm looking forward actually to doing transactions around the country. There's a lot of great markets out there. Which markets are you guys in right now?
We're typically in the Sun Belt. A lot of our team
Mhm.
is in Houston right now, so Houston's been pretty good to us.
That's great.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I've
that's
been
great.
hearing a lot of people start going into the Midwest and such, so it's interesting. We're trying to, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, figure out which markets. Well, like you said, like I found somebody that wanted to go do Ohio, Kentucky, whatever, and I was like, okay, that's not a problem. Like, we'll go find the leads, we'll cultivate it. If you want to call on them, great. If you want us to call and get it to a certain point, and then we kind of figure it out together, great. Then you do the syndication part and all that side of it, and find an operator within the team that can deal with it. And
Mm.
I don't really care if it's in Texas or North Carolina or Florida or wherever. I think that there's a lot of great people in the space that um, you know they can complement a part of the general partner side, and raise capital and do all that kind of stuff, and we'll find the deals and help analyze them, and call owners and until they sell. So, but a lot of it's just follow up, right, and networking, and just building great relationships. So
Yeah, you inspired me to reach back out to a lot of brokers that I just haven't been talking to this time. So okay, I'm
well,
gonna go get organized.
Well, think about this too. Like all these real estate agents, it doesn't matter if it's multifamily or single family, they're all in the same turbulent times, right? And so with the interest rates like being so high, there's just, they have mortgages and houses and stuff too, right? So like they're all on commission. And so now is like the perfect time to start reaching out to them and finding out, if the seller, would consider creative finance, or maybe they'll take a lower price, or maybe we could even use a portion of the seller's equity as a down payment on the complex. And we wouldn't even need to syndicate, so because what happens is sometimes sellers just get fixated on a certain price, and the agent's like trying to coach them and explain to them like, hey, the market conditions have changed, interest rates are this or that or whatever. It's just that we have to ask better questions, to the agents, to the sellers. But those agents, I mean, they want to get the property sold. We just have to provide them with more options, I think. And it's just, talking to them, following up with them, kind of seeing what's going on in their world, right?
Mhm. Oh my goodness. Well, I know that we can just be here all day. So I know that you're, with all that you've got going on, with all the experience, I'm sure that you're actually doing a lot more with your day. So we'll leave it off here. And I so appreciate just your time with, I mean, it's been over an hour, and it's just, I know we've all just been super entranced by you. So thank you so much for joining us, Mitch. Oh, we actually have a question. One last question, and then we'll let you
Yeah.
out. Go ahead, Kyle.
Hey, Mitch. Thanks for all the value today.
Hey, thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Was good. A lot of education. Also, it was interesting just listening to the stories. So appreciate it. I had one question. So you were talking about some maybe possibly older owners that are looking to get out of the business. I've been thinking about ways of going directly to those sellers. Is that something you've played with, or do you just normally just go direct to the broker?
No, actually, I think right now is a perfect opportunity to go directly to the sellers. So like we have, so I have a friend who owns a data company, and so what we're doing is and I also have my my own internal team. And so what we're doing is we're actually going through between the data that I get that we're buying through my friend's company, where we're pulling like all the not absentee owners, but all of the free and clear multifamily properties. I think are perfect opportunity because we know exactly how old they are, and we know when they purchased the property, how long they've owned it. If they own other properties, then it's just kind of like getting the conversation started with them. Then we also have the defaulted people as well, right? Who whether or not their loan is still whether it's due, or it could be a situation where we just call them and maybe buy it from them and trying to keep the loan in place, and then come up with a plan and syndicate it and maybe refinance it or do something like that. But yeah, I mean, we have the access to all of the owners in the United States. And so what we do is we're going through and we're skip tracing all of their information. So it just depends on what kind of data, what data you're, like what kind of owner, what market do you want? What, do we want free and clear? Do we want pre-foreclosures? I think those are two of the best ones to work right now because we can talk directly with the owner and try to structure a deal with them. And the way I see it too is like, as long as we can cash flow the property when we start with them, we can refinance it in the future, right? So maybe if we have a 10-year balloon with them, usually I'll try to negotiate a 10-year balloon on seller finance deals for a multifamily. On the ones where they're behind on payments, there's a little bit more sense of urgency. So we have to figure out what type of loan they have, and if it's something that we could probably try to take subject to, and then try to figure out a refinance or, a way to get them out of that. Some of the properties too, like that are just on the market, it could be that I personally would rather talk to the agent. I mean, to the owner. That's just me. I work with a lot of agents as well. I think more agents right now are coming around to talk about creative finance more, even in the multifamily space, because if it's not selling, I mean, how are they, what are the owners going to do? The owner definitely wants to sell it, right? It's not selling at the price that they want, because the interest rates, have gone up, the cap rates are going up, all of that is increasing. So the amount of buyers have fallen off probably by over 50%. When you talk to loan officers too, that's a really good indication, like, of getting an idea of what type of buyer is actually still buying in the market right now. Like in our market, where we've been in California, most of the buyers have not been multifamily buyers. They're actually coming from farming, office space, retail. Because they're moving out of office space or retail, and farming. And so we've had, so there's a little bit more education with those buyers. But, that's why I think this is a perfect opportunity, because if buying's slowing down, that means there's more negotiation on the, with the seller. So maybe they're fixated on that price. Great. So if I can come up to your price, would you give me terms? Right. And so in those terms could be interest only for 3 to 5 years, right? While we reposition the property. It could also be that, we can negotiate the down payment down. Everything's negotiable the way I see it right now. Like, we're going to have an incredible amount of opportunity to talk to owners, and the thing is like, I don't watch a lot of news. So I watch financial data and I watch financial stuff, but I don't watch the news. I know what's going on in the world because everybody else around me watches the news, right? So people who watch the news consistently all the time, there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of things, terrible things that are happening in the world right now. And so, the owners are watching the exact same data, right? We're coming up on an election year. There's like, it's just like chaos right now and turbulence. So I think that we're going to have like this incredible window right now. I think it's already opened. Like, the window is already open, right? Because of what's going on in the world and the interest rates and everything that's there, that now is the time to have the conversations with people, and figure out, what to do to help them. Because, when you're talking to the agents and the sellers too, sometimes they're going to be fixated on a price. And so you just got to try to figure out, at that point too, see the difference between somebody who has a mortgage and somebody who owns it free and clear. You could probably, we could buy apartment complexes with 1 to 3% interest rates. I would honestly, I would be willing to pay somebody more than what they're asking if they gave me low interest rates with interest only, where I have 3 to 5 years to reposition it, right? Because during that time, a million things can change, like in the lending side, right? So if we're able to figure out, some terms with them, excuse me, that work for both of us, then it's a win-win situation, right? Expired listings, huge. I think the multifamily expired listings, it's like, they wanted to sell it, or if it's been on the market for 6-8 months, right? Clearly it's not going to sell unless the seller is willing to do some kind of terms at that price. So
yeah, well, thanks for that. A lot of gold there.
So where are we doing deals at together?
I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. Okay. Yeah.
That's right.
Send me like a buy box, like what you guys are looking for and what you're thinking. And like, I think we already have like the data for Columbus, Ohio. So just kind of like what idea you're thinking. and I'll send you a bunch of leads and stuff. And then if something comes out of it, let's see how we can do business together.
I love that. But yeah, I'll
Yeah.
definitely connect with you after.
Yeah, look up Mitch Pomeroy on Facebook. He's amazing.
I just
I
got
will.
my Facebook back. It was banned actually. Somebody hacked it last October, so I haven't had like social media for almost a year. And then I had, I sold a property to somebody who works for Facebook, and they helped me figure it out. And so I was able to get my Facebook back up. So yeah, if you go to Facebook and you look at Mitch Pomeroy, you'll see a picture of me and my wife on there, and that's my Facebook page. So if you want, you can reach out. And
Is that the best way for people to reach out to you, or would you prefer email or anything, or is Facebook good?
oh yeah, no, so you can do both actually. So you could do either Facebook or my email is Mitch, Mitch, at freshstartsolution.com.
Mitch at freshstartsolution.com.
Yeah. And so, yeah, if anybody wants to connect or collaborate on, markets or deals, if you're already doing deals in a specific state, it doesn't matter to me what state it is, as long as you're a good operator, or if you have what I like to call fire in the belly to, to learn and take action and figure it out, then let's go.
Yeah, dude.
Let's do it.
So much. Thank you, Mitch. I super
appreciate you.
Oh my gosh, you're
Yeah.
getting all of us like super pumped because you're just spitting out all this info, and I know that we're all like, oh my God. Well, if he had to go through, since you've been doing this since like 2007, how long is that? I can't math right now. 16 years?
Yeah, it's about 16 years.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's it's been like a whirlwind, like of just like learning and collaborating and failing forward and and also winning and success and all those kind of things. But yeah, I mean, and by the way, with those units, I walked every single door, every single room, every bedroom, every single complex that I've ever bought. I walked every single unit, every building, so I know exactly what to look for, what stands out, what the issues are, all the little bits and pieces, from the insurance to, to rents to, interviewing property management companies to all that kind of stuff. So happy to help and share any of that information.
amazing. We're pumped. I think we all want to work with you. So your email may be getting pretty
Blown up. Let's go.
Yeah.
I hope so. Let's go buy some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I really want to. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mitch. Thank you everybody for joining us. I super appreciate you. I'm going to start talking to my team right now so that we can figure out what to do, and then we'll reach out to you, Mitch.
Sounds great. I appreciate you. Thank you all for having me today.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and thank you all.
You too. See y'all.